It's Corso and Catone. Brought to you by Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Now for the real deal New England feel. Corso and Catone.
Welcome into Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. I'm Corso. Catone's here. Joe's with us in the booth. You are watching us on YouTube, listening on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, anywhere you podcast, 790 to score. You know, guys, I say this crap in my sleep.
I don't know if is anyone listening to you.
They better be.
Should
be. They watch Corso and Catone.
What do you think? You're the only one people are listening to?
That's what I mean.
You know? People comment on you. Somebody said your voice was annoying on one of the comments.
Good. I'll make it even more annoying for them. How's that?
And let us know in Heated Hotline how annoying it really is. 855-313-PATS, P-A-T-S, message line. Leave us a message 24/7. And you can email us in our mailbag, corso.catone@gmail.com. Joe tells us we have one. And looks like we're going to have one right off the bat in Heated Hotline, so stick around. And, of course, we're going to go Pat's preview and discuss the excruciating 25-24 loss to the Indianapolis Colts last week. And let's see what he's got for us in Catone's comments today. Make your voice real annoying, Mark, today.
Yeah, listen. It's that time of the year. You never know what I want to come up with.
No. And then we'll go B's and C's, but it's not going to be B's. It's going to be C's with a little PC in there.
Okay,
PC Fryer talk. So we'll have that minute. So stick around for that. Guys, how are we doing?
Hey.
It's good.
Are there any holidays or any nonsense I got to wish people happy holiday out this week or what?
Nah, not this week. You got a couple of week reprieve, couple of weeks.
Okay.
Then you really get into the silly season in a couple of weeks. Yeah. Christmas, New Year's Eve. It's like,
Just sometimes I forget,
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah.
I literally have been trying to piece together some lyrics to make that song. It's in my head. I'm in the shower going, it's a silly season. It's time to get something's coming. It's coming to me.
Oh, something's coming. All right.
Yeah.
So what's coming is Heated Hotline. We're going to hear from one of you right now in Heated Hotline. So, Joe, let's have it.
This one's a write-in. This is Paul from Johnston. This week, it's reported Mayo is on solid ground with Krafts for 2025. What is the ownership watching? The attention to detail sucks. The in-game adjustments suck. The overall game plan suck. And the situational football sucks. What else is there? Mayo and the entire coaching staff needs to be fired. What do you guys think? Love the show. Sorry, that was my Paul from Johnston.
That was your impression. There you go, Joe.
So, Paul, we want to know if you sound anything
like him.
Yeah. Okay. Because I think he practices these voices in the shower. Did you say that?
That's what he just said. Yeah.
So, Paul, we appreciate the write-in, the Heated Hotline. Let's hope you don't sound like that, man. My God. But Mark, I like this coaching staff. I think they're fantastic. I think they should give him a 10-year contract, Mayo.
So he brings up stuff. He brings up some stuff, Chris, that you've been talking about for weeks about, situational football and game planning and attention to detail and in-game adjustments. And you've been talking about that for weeks, Chris. Like you've been even games that they've won, you're like, yeah, but, and it's you always bring up one of those things. Like the fact that Krafts basically said he's on solid footing for 25 and he's resided himself to the fact, I think that, this is going to be a multi-year rebuild. Are you kidding me?
It went from with Krafts from I expect to make the playoffs. Okay. Then it turned into, I expect us to have a winning record to win games. Now what? It's a rebuild. How much do you like that word rebuild?
Oh, I hate that. That's what losers say. That's what losing organizations say. Well, we're in the middle of a rebuild. You're going to be you'll be in a perpetual rebuild for 20 years. So this coaching staff, Chris, Paul calls out the coaching staff. Let's go quickly. Mayo. What do you think of, what about Mayo?
Situational football, first of all. And you know what? Like challenges, timeouts. In fact, we got something from him after the game on the challenge. Joe, let's have it.
There was a few minutes to go. I think it was a 3rd and 8 catch by Mallory. Looked like it might have wobbled from our perspective. You decided not to challenge that, but I think you had 3 timeouts at that point. Did you consider that? What went into that decision?
We were waiting to see the replay. Never really got a clear shot of it, so I didn't challenge it.
That's BS. Okay, that they didn't see that replay. I don't agree with that. By the way, the ball did move. It did drag on the ground. It was an incomplete pass.
You know what, though, Chris? At that point of the game, I might have made the call upstairs, and if they would have said we're not 100% sure, I would have threw the red flag. At that point of the game, that was a critical call. I would have threw the flag anyway. Just throw it
because if you win the challenge, which I believe they would have,
yeah, I do.
Okay, it's now 4th and 10.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't go for it instead of it being 4th and 1.
They probably wouldn't have, Chris, because at that point, Indianapolis still had 3 timeouts. I'm thinking they would have punted and gambled that they could get the ball back.
Yeah, so for who you don't know out there, at the end of the game, there was that situation where we were up, 7, and they would drive in the field on the eventual winning score, touchdown.
19 play drive, by the way.
The 19 play drive, and we'll get into that later on in the show. The 19-play drive, and it was 3rd and 10. The guy catches the ball towards the ground. It dragged a little bit, moved a little bit. Clearly, to me, it was incomplete, and he doesn't challenge that. Do you buy that nonsense about not seeing? We saw the replay, so all the idiots in the booth had to do is go like this. Look. They show them in the booth. The TV's right here. They just had to turn around like that. Oh, okay, yeah, I see it hit the ground. They didn't get the replay. What do they have? A special TV up there?
Yeah.
We got it, but they didn't get it.
Yeah. He's covering for the fact that he didn't throw the flag. What are you gonna do? The game, Chris, and you've said this, is moving too fast for him.
Yeah. And
that's a big critique of him as a head coach, that the game is moving too fast for him. You've brought this up on numerous occasions during the course of the year. You know, what about defensively? Covington, you bring him back?
Well, hang on. Let's stay on Mayo for a minute. We got to the 15. So let's stay on Mayo because we're talking about the timeouts too. Just the situation, okay? The timeout. Now, he calls a timeout on 4th and 1. I don't know that I would have done that because they were scrambling. You said that when it was happening. You said it was at the end of the game. They had their timeouts left. And you said, why are they calling a timeout? It was 1 second on the play clock. They're scrambling around. Make them run the play. And you're right. Then they get to the 2-point conversion, and he doesn't call the timeout.
Yeah. And you said, Chris, that at that point, you would have called it. Explain why you would have called the timeout at that point.
Because you only bring to the game a certain amount of 2-point conversion plays, okay, as an offense. So you bring like however many, 2, 3, whatever. And you got one that you like the most, all right? You rank them. So if they're lining up for 2-point conversion and that coach is putting his nuts out on the line to win the game instead of tying it, you can bet your ass that's the best 2-point play they got in the formation. So they break the huddle, they come to the line, they got their formation, they got the play they really love. I bang a timeout for 2 reasons. One, to see the formation, get my defense organized on the most critical play of the game, okay? And 2, because now it puts them in a bind. Because now they're sitting there saying, do we come out with that same formation and that same play, or do we go to a lesser play we don't like as much? That's the kind of crap you need to be thinking about as a coach, as a head coach of a team. And he's not thinking about any of it.
But then, Chris, did you catch what he said after? He when they asked him about calling the timeout, he says, well, we've won Super Bowls in the past by not calling the timeout. He's referring to the Seattle Super Bowl. So, it's worked out for us in the past. Yeah. First of all, there's no we. You had nothing to do with that play, with making that decision. So what the hell is we? We? Are you crazy saying we? Really? I went berserk when I heard that. We? No, there's no we, Gerard. No we. You had not one thing. If he was on that team, he was probably on injured reserve. He wasn't playing. So what the hell was he doing? Holding the water bottles? What we?
No.
That went up me sideways when he made that comment, Chris. You're using that now. So you're referring to Belichick when it serves you that we've done well with that in the past. He talks out of both sides, Chris. You said that before. It's ridiculous.
Totally different situation.
Yes.
Totally different situation. It's first and goal. Okay. He runs into the line. It's second and goal in the Seattle game. That's where the interception happened. You're not calling a timeout on second and goal for what? The clock's moving.
And the reason
totally
Belichick didn't call the timeout, Chris, if you believe him. Now, I'm going to give Bill the benefit of the doubt. Bill claims he didn't call the timeout because when he looked across the field, it looked like there was some uncertainty on the Seattle sideline onto what players were shuffling in and out. And he was like, you know what? Let's go with it. Don't call timeout. They look like they're unorganized. And it turned out it worked. If you believe that, that's what Bill claims, why he didn't call the timeout.
Well,
now, whether or not that's true or not, I don't know, but it worked out.
Listen, I believe him. And the reason I believe him, if you go to the mic'd up stuff with Bill, okay,
yeah.
And the bottom line is he's always sitting there. I remember in that Super Bowl game against the Rams, he was looking at the second one, the one in 18. Yep. He was looking across saying, I can't see McVay. I can't see where's McVay? Tell me, where is he, Ernie? I can't see him. He wants to see the coach. He wants to see what they're doing. See, this is the difference between a coach who knows what the hell they're doing and a guy that's just confused looking all the time on the sideline. He's confused. Look at what it took for him to throw that other challenge earlier in the game. It was clear as a bell they screwed up the first down, the mark, and he took him forever to get it out. So, listen, he is over his head, and he doesn't know what to say about it after, and he's just not – you're right, he needs to go. I like him. He's a nice guy, but he's not ready.
Right. He needs to go.
He's not ready.
Okay.
Go to another team. Covington. You want to talk about this guy gets out coached every single week. And by the way, the penalties, 7 more penalties this week, by the way.
Yeah.
They're not set. There's no edge again. He's not making an adjustment to get any edge pressure. Okay. It's not like Richardson was killing him, but he hurt him with his legs, like I talked about, and he's got guys blowing coverages across the field. The interception that they had was a pretty good design with Divide dropping back. That was a good design, but there's just not enough of that, Mark. He's too inexperienced. There's too many guys on this team that are new. Yeah. Talk about Alex Van Pelt. He should be gone too.
So Covington needs to go.
Gone. Get out. Gone.
Okay.
Gone. What about AVP, Mark?
AVP, listen, you want to talk about AVP? Well, listen, AVP, Chris, here's the thing with him, and you've mentioned this the last couple of games. There's certain times of the game, Chris, where he actually calls situationally a couple of decent plays during the course of a game. Is he doing it enough? No. Do I like the style of offense he runs with the 2 tight ends? And no, I don't like it. No. However, there are certain things that he does do sometimes during the course of a game. Like, oh, you know what? Well, that was a pretty good play call. That was a good scheme he threw out there. But I don't like the personnel packages he uses. I don't like how he utilizes the wide receivers. I still think his offense is not something you'll win with in 2024. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys get to the playoffs, they get blown out every year. He runs a variation of that offense. I don't care what you do in a regular season. You'll never win playoff games and Super Bowls with Alex Van Pelt's offense. You want to give him credit for Drake May? Okay, give him credit, whether that's him or whether it's the QB coach that they got from the Giants. I don't know. But at the end of the day, my vote is I'm with Paul. Van Pelt needs to go too.
You know who else? He's too conservative, and who agrees with that on Boston Sports Network there is Tom Curran, Phil Perry. Joe, let's hear that.
I can't play now with Alex Van Pelt here,
Phil.
Tom. This is not an Alex Van Pelt game.
No,
in my opinion. So I disagree with you. Tom, they should have scored 40 points, Tom. This is a team that's got replacement level players across the board. They should have scored 40 points. We're complaining about the play calling.
No doubt, because at the end of the game, if you're a dynamic offense who's been going up and down the field on him, why are you going to run Ramondre Stevenson twice into the line and then punt?
Yes, I agree with Curran, and I don't always, and I disagree with Perry. Listen, following the Ellis interception on the 50-yard line, you should be taking shots, right? 1 yard run, 8-yard pass, 3-yard run, field goal. Okay, and the first play was a run.
But Chris, I think what Curran's referring to in that clip was Gonzalez's pick.
That's
right?
the next one. Following Gonzalez interception, 2-yard run, 3-yard run, sack, punt. Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
That's his problem.
Hey, Chris, their play calling in the red zone is still questionable, too. Every time they get down there, and I understand there's penalties. The offensive line gets penalties called on them, but they still bog down there. I don't like their play calling once he gets inside the 20. Especially inside the 10-yard line, I just don't like it.
I don't like his play calling. I don't like his personnel packages, and he doesn't let May cook or use his legs down there. So,
well, you've been calling for an RPO every time they get inside the red zone since May's been in the lineup, and he hasn't ran it once, Chris.
Right. So we'll see. I mean, these guys are talking about possibly Mike Vrabel coming in here. So let's keep.
Listen, the reports of Krafts is not going to get rid of Mayo.
Well, tomorrow, make sure you tune into the Pats Nation tomorrow because we're going to be talking about the state of the Patriots. And we're going to be talking a lot more about this coaching situation and so on. But this portion or Heated Hotline was presented by the Pats Nation, 8 a.m. Eastern every Sunday. Usually it's preceding the Patriots game. Tomorrow there is no Patriots game, so we'll have a lot to talk about. But when we come back, we're going to go back in the week. Weekly Rewinds next.
Sundays are for football. And here in New England, that means it's the Pats Nation with Corso and Catone.
You have the worst wide receiver room in the National Football League.
This is why the Patriots need us in the draft room. Let's see what the Pats Nation thinks about that, Mark.
Starting June 30th, Sundays, 8 to 9 a.m. on 790 The Score.
Yeah, Mark, let's see what the Pats Nation thinks about that, huh?
Yes.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. Hey, in the rundown, I said Pats preview, but we're going weekly rewind. Let's get it going, Joe. I'm getting it. Going back through the week. About a weekly rewind. 25-24. The Colts come into town and beat the Patriots on the last second. Ballsy call by the head coach of the Colts to go for 2 to win the game.
I don't even know what his name is. What's his name? I don't even know his name.
But did you have any doubt in your mind they were getting that?
Nope. At first, I questioned whether I would go for it, and you were like, "Of course you would. They're on the road. What do they got to lose? They're not gonna. They figure they're not gonna stop the Patriots if they lose the coin toss. Listen, take the shot." And you were right, Chris. But no, once they decided to do it, I'm like, their score. They're gonna win this game.
Yeah, I have no confidence in the defense at all. But talking about the offense, Mark, let's do that. First, just give me generally your impressions of this offense. This offensive performance today, Chris, and then we'll get to we got Phil Perry on some of the coaching.
Listen, in the earlier clip you played with Curran and Perry, they should have scored. The Patriots should have scored 40 points, Chris. They were on it. They were in the first half. They were in the red zone. What, 3 times, 4 times? Like, what are they? Like, they didn't get one. They missed an extra points size field goal. It was a short field. They missed it. They kick field goals. They should have scored over. They should have scored between 35 and 40 points this week, Chris. Without
2 of
question.
6 in the red zone.
Yeah, the game shouldn't have been close, Chris. So yes, the offense was played well. They had over 200 yards rushing, over 200 yards passing, but they can't finish, Chris. And that's on Van Pelt. That's on his schemes. That's on his play calling. That's on his packages. The offense didn't finish, Chris. May played well. I don't put it on May, Chris.
I thought this was his best game.
Yeah, Hunter Henry, the ball comes out of his hands in the end zone for a pick. That should have been a touchdown, right? That's another 7 you should have had. I don't blame Drake. The penalties again, the offensive line, Chris, again, What do they get? 3 penalties in the red zone?
3 in the red zone. I think they had like 5 holding calls. They had 7 penalties total for 80 yards, and 5 of them I think were on the offensive line.
And 3 were in the red zone, Chris. So I think the offense played well, but they couldn't finish because of a variety of factors. But it wasn't because of May, Chris. No. Like you said, May played an excellent game.
It's interesting, and Phil Perry talked about this. We talked about coaching in the last segment. Coaching versus, we talked about those 7 penalties. And when I told you last week about, what did I say last week about the reason you're committing?
You said last week, well, Mark, maybe they're committing all these penalties because they're pressing, because they know the guy on the other side of the ball is better than they are. So they're trying to get a little bit of leverage. They're trying to maybe move quicker than anticipate snap counts in order to get a head stop, because they know that they're not as good as the guy across from them. Well, guess what? They must listen to you because they repeat.
Let's hear it, Joe.
Redundancy. I mean, that's how he put it when he first stepped to the podium today and talked about some of the same things he's been talking about these last several weeks. I know they got routed in Miami, but just the penalties there and their unrelenting ability to shoot themselves in the foot that really hurt them in close games previous to that Dolphins game. And so, I look at it and I say, okay, well, what can the coaches maybe do to make sure that they iron this stuff out with the players? And I went to Mike Owenu, who was called for a hold down in the red zone, helped kill one of those drives deep in Colts territory today. And he said, no, it's nothing the coaches could do. We're the players out there. We don't want to be committing penalties. They're punishing us in practice when we commit penalties in practice. And so they're trying to hold our feet to the fire as though it's all related to talent. Mm-hmm. I mean, are you holding more just because you can't block a guy?
Yep.
Are you false start? No false starts today, but are you trying to get a jump in Miami last week because you know you're about to get beat around the edge? I just wonder if the penalties are actually a talent issue more than a coaching issue.
There it is.
And there it is. And you said that already.
It's again, there's so many issues up and down the lineup, but the offensive line, who started to play better throughout the middle of the season, is now is falling off a cliff.
Oh, it's going backwards, Chris.
Okay.
Backwards.
And so we talk about May a little bit. Look, I thought, like you said, I thought this was his best game. He's running the ball. He's using his legs. Okay. The 30, I think I bought a 30 yard. Did he have a 30-yard run or no? It was maybe less than that, but
no, I think it might have been a little more than that.
Yeah. When he sees man coverage, he sees the lane, he takes off, he climbs the pocket. He does all the things. It isn't like he's just seeing man going. He's dropping, he's climbing up in the pocket, he's surveying how his crappy receivers downfield who can't get open, right? And then he takes off. And he his footwork last week, we were a little concerned about him developing bad habits. He rushed for, by the way, 60 yards, 59 yards, and a touchdown. Okay, no, not a touchdown this week, but 59 yards. So we were worried about him getting to bad habits, right?
Yep.
Because of all the pressure. Well, this week he's cleaned a lot of that up. His footwork under pressure was so much better. So much better. And they played mostly zone, but when they did decide to go man, that's when he took off. So I like how he's playing. The touchdown to Hooper was perfect thrown. I mean, he threw so many balls that were in perfect places. He never gives up on a play. This is where it reminds you of Allen. He's rolling to the sideline. You figure like he's just going to throw it out of bounds. And all of a sudden he throws it on a line. And if a guy had one more step in, he could have, it's unreal.
Yeah, he does. He really does.
The only good thing on the team.
Yeah.
But talk about the wideouts.
Is there anything have we seen anything different with these wideouts, Chris? It's the same story week after week. I don't think there was as many drops this week, but they still can't get open, Chris.
No.
And I think Indianapolis stinks. And Butte made a couple of catches. One was a nice catch he made. Polk is irrelevant. I don't know what he's not even like a thought. He's not even, can't get open. They're not even looking at him.
No.
Ball caught a couple, but the receivers, Chris, didn't do much. Pop Douglas, nothing. Butte caught that 2-point conversion.
Yeah, I mean, Douglas had four targets, 4 catches for only 20 yards. Okay, out of the 24 attempts, 16 of them went to tight ends and a running back. You can't have that. I mean, yes, they scored 24 points, and that's great. I mean,
And Chris,
they're
is
getting
that
in
the
20s.
design though of Van Pelt,
Yes.
or is that because your receivers just stink, or is it a combination?
No, it's a combination for sure. Because listen, I hate the offense. I don't like the way this offense is. I don't like this design, but Dallas runs the same offense. And last year they led the league in points. Now, they have obviously more talent. Their offensive line was so much better. Their receivers, CeeDee Lamb, I mean, so much better. So yeah, you can score points with this offense. If two things, you got some wide receiver talent, a number one on the outside that can get downfield on a play action, okay? And two, you got a play caller that understands the offense. Look, I know Alex Van Pelt grew up in this offense, but his play calling, he's not a game day coach. Nobody on that sideline is a game day coach. None of them.
Can you imagine? And that's what they've put together, Chris. That's their staff.
It sucks. It's disgusting.
You know,
it is. And that's okay. So now let's talk about the offensive line. Okay. And while Joe's queuing up that, we got Phil Perry a lot today.
That's good. I like Phil. He should be proud, happy.
He should be flattered. He should be flattered.
Yeah.
Okay. But he talked about the offensive line. Joe, when you're ready.
Just an alarming lack of detail that continues to plague this offense specifically. Really plagued the entire team today. I'm sure you were losing your mind when you saw Jonathan Taylor leak out to the flat. Nobody within 10 yards of him, 20 yards of him, 30 yards of him. I don't know, for an easy touchdown defensively. I'm sure you were going absolutely bonkers when it came to that. But offensively, you have the two holds that turn a first and goal from the 2 situation into a first and goal from the 22 situation, leads to a field goal. How about Michael Wenner? Just mentioned him. Right after the Christian Gonzalez pick, they have on third down a loss of 3 yards because he didn't hear the change of the play at the line of scrimmage, which he acknowledged. Everyone else did, apparently, but he didn't get it. And
I mean, and again, we thank you.
But is that on Drake though? That the fact that the one who doesn't get the play change?
No, not when everybody else does it, and that was Phil Perry of NBC Sports Boston. We like him. We like Bedard of Boston Sports Journal because they hit to the heart of it. They see what we're seeing. No, it's not on Drake May. I mean, Christ almighty, the rest of the line is getting the call. You can't get it. This is a big money guard, right? So, I mean, these are the problems. 4 sacks. He was hit 3 more times than that. And even on max protection, this is happening. And it's the edge. I mean, the interior plays poorly at times too. Last week they did, but the edge is so bad. Watching those guys try to shuffle out and step out and try to get some depth to get edge rushes it's sickening to watch the technique of these tackles. Sickening. That's what I think. 5 holding calls, Mark, in the first half. Really?
Well, Chris, they did nothing to address this position in the offseason. So what did they really expect? I mean, with what you thought the guy they signed from Pittsburgh who quit on you, they thought he was going to be your savior? Like, they didn't bring anybody in. Like, what did they expect was going to happen with that offensive line? I'm confused. And
it goes back to ownership. It goes back to GM. And tomorrow on the Pats Nation, we're going to be talking about that, Mark. We're going to be talking a lot about that, about the state of the union. I was going to say state of the Patriots, and they all need to go.
Chris, listen, just real quick. So the Patriots this week were the first team in the NFL history.
I knew you were going to come with this.
History to lose a game while scoring more than 23 points, passing for over 200 yards, rushing for over 200 yards, punting once or fewer in the game, and winning the turnover margin. Do you know what the record was of teams going into Sunday?
Don't forget time of possession.
Time of possession. But that's not even listed here. 72-0. 72-0. Thanks to the Patriots, those teams are now 72-1.
They have a couple of those records this year. Listen.
They do, Chris. They're bad.
That's all you need to know out there. That's all you need to know about the offensive breakdown of what this team is about. And so now we're going to flip over to the defensive side. But this portion of Weekly Rewind was presented by Corso Law Group, CorsoLawGroup.com. We come back. Oh, God, let's talk about the defense, I guess.
No one ever thinks they will be in need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. Whether it's a traffic ticket or more serious issue, talk with these expert attorneys. CorsoLawGroup.com.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England field. Oh, Mark, before we get to the defense, I wanted to give you this stat because you talked about the red zone offense and how bad it is in the play calling. Okay. They ran 17 plays in the red zone. Okay. 10 rushes for 41 yards and a touchdown. 7 passes for 41 yards, a touchdown, and interception. 3 sacks, 2 penalties. That sucks.
It's a joke.
So I wanted to just give you that stat. But, Mark, talking about the defense now. Okay. God, so sick of this, with this team. Now, the total amount of yards, they allowed 253 yards. So it was better. It wasn't 400. It wasn't 400.
Yeah, but can I tell you something? If anyone watched the game, do you know how bad that quarterback is for Indianapolis?
Oh, my God.
He had guys wide open that he missed. So I don't want to hear that the defense didn't play bad, 200-something yards. Do you know how bad Richardson is? Imagine that team wasted a top 5 draft pick on him. Oh, my God.
He was 12 of 24, 109 yards. That wasn't the thing. He's, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But he threw 2 touchdowns and 2 But the thing that was bothering me, and I said it last week, in the keys. What are the keys to victory we talked about? Who's this guy from Miami who says we don't know what we're talking about? The keys to victory, I said, you cannot let Richardson run on you. You can't turn your back on him and let him get to the edge. You can't let him get out. Well, he rushed for 50 yards and a touchdown.
No.
And a 2-point conversion.
The 2-point conversion. I was going to say that, yeah.
Okay. I would say that's a fail.
Yeah, that's a fail.
Okay. Look, another 144 yards allowed rushing. And I'll tell you, Mark, I thought the secondary played pretty good.
They did. They didn't play bad.
I thought they played well.
Played better. They played better. Yeah, they did play better.
Mark, 0 sacks, 2 pressures. And then you allow 144 yards rushing? You knew full well Indianapolis wanted to run the ball. See, this is where Covington, you asked me about Covington earlier. You knew that they wanted to run the ball. You knew they were going to come in with Jonathan Taylor and they were going to want to run the ball, right? Okay, fine. So what would Bill have done in that situation? By the way, Taylor rushed for 96 yards off 25 carries, But go ahead. What would Bill have done during that week leading up?
Well, for one thing, he would have made sure that that Taylor wasn't beating him.
Right.
He would have made Richardson beat him with his arm, which he wouldn't have been able to do. He would have threw 4 picks if that was the case, Chris, because he stinks. But he would have made him have to throw the ball to beat him because he would have sealed him into the pocket and he would have stopped Jonathan Taylor and said, okay, now beat me with your arm. And the kid it would have been a blowout.
Especially with Downs out.
Yeah, with Downs.
With one of their best receivers
who has become one of their best receivers. By the way, somebody you wanted to draft, he wanted to go second, third round, you wanted him.
I can't deal with it anymore. I quit. That's it. I'm taking my stuff off.
Hey, how's your buddy McConkey doing? They're going to see him in a couple of weeks over here.
I wait till tomorrow. Wait till we talk about the receivers tomorrow. Okay? On the Pats Nation. You definitely don't want to miss that tomorrow morning. Listen, again, it's all up front. It's all the front 7 stuff. And I thought at the beginning of the season this was going to be the strength of this team. Okay? The interior is too small. We talked about this. The interior is too small. They get run on. They're so soft against the run. Nobody makes the linemen right. The linebackers don't make them right. They don't fill the way they're supposed to fill. Tavai, okay, he made a good play. He'll do it once a game. He'll make 1 or 2 good plays a game.
He will.
And that bails him out, it seems. He's not a good middle linebacker. He's just not. Okay?
So, Chris, you talk about that part of the defense, but is it reasonable enough to use the fact that Wheatley has been out all year as an excuse, and the fact that Bondmore really he's playing, but
wait a minute, who was the first guy you just said?
Bentley. I meant to say Bentley.
Okay, because I was going to say, yeah, go ahead,
Bentley. Is it safe? Is it fair to say it's because Bentley's out and Bondmore has been obviously not healthy? I mean, he's back, but I don't think he's still 100% healthy. I mean, I think he's playing himself back into playing shape. So would that be an excuse?
Well, let me just say this about it. You know, you're talking about the rankings. Now, they're ranked somewhere, you know, in the 20s. They're like total defense. They're probably 19, 20. They're bottom quarter of the league, whatever. Would he have helped in the run game? Yes. He definitely would have helped in the run game. But Mark, they got run on last year too. I mean, this team, you know, they masked it better. They had better schemes, which is why they were one of the top 10 defenses last year because of Bill. But yes, they would have been better in the run game. Okay. But he's not 50 yards better. He's not 60 yards better. He's not 100 yards better of a player where you're allowing 200 yards or you're allowing an average of 160 over the last 5 games to give that stat last week. He's not that much better. And you say, well, Tavai would be better because he's playing out of position and on and on and on the excuses go. No. They wouldn't be, they would still be in the same spot, in my opinion, even with Bentley in the game. I get it with Bondmore. I understand all that. Yeah. But what about the pass rush, Pat? What about the blitz packaging, the pass rush? Okay, nobody's winning one-on-one battles, and he's not setting anybody up to win one-on-one battles. So, no. I mean, they're getting no pressure. I think they've had 0. I don't know. They didn't have any sacks last week. I don't know about the week before, but they're not doing the job up front. They're getting progressively worse. That's the problem, too. Do you see them getting better as the year goes?
No. And teams that are well coached, Chris, typically you'll see some improvement as the year goes on. And this team, if anything, I don't even want to say they regress, Chris, because, okay, they beat Cincinnati. And I said way back in week 1, you're going to find out that this was more about Cincinnati than it was about us. Cincinnati's not a playoff team. They're going to be eliminated within the next week. So I think that game I think I ended up being right, was more about Cincinnati than it was about us. So, you know.
You talk about, listen, a team like Indianapolis shouldn't be 5 of 11 on third down. They shouldn't be 50% on third down. And they certainly shouldn't be 3 for 3 on fourth down.
No.
So, you know, and then to top it off, how many times this year, people say, well, the offense. The defense is such a bigger problem because how many games, I don't have the numbers, but how many games did we have the lead with under 5 minutes left to go in these games, and we blew the lead? At least 3. At least.
Yeah, at least.
19-play drive. Indy went on 19 plays.
Listen, it's unconscionable that a team with that offense and those skilled players went down 19 plays. They ran off all that clock in a 19-play drive. That's embarrassing. Chris. You were on a 19-play drive.
They got outplayed.
Listen,
they got outcoached.
But Chris, when they got down into the red zone, on that last drive,
Indy.
they were Indy. Was it the third down or the fourth down play where the Patriots were discombobulated, running around? They didn't know what the safeties were looking, were pointing this, that, and then all of a sudden the ball snapped.
I think it was third down because on fourth down we called a time. The Patriots called a timeout on 4th and 1 on that drive. So I think it was the third down play because Indy looked discombobulated on that fourth down, which is why you and I wondered.
And the fourth down play though, they scored on the crosser in the end zone, right?
Yeah. Yep.
The third down play, Chris.
Yeah, we were.
Indianapolis knew what they were doing. We were told that's when now Mayo could have called the timeout there too, Chris, because they were totally discombobulated. And this isn't the first time. If you listen to the Patriot postgame on television, Ted Johnson said that's happened like 4 or 5 times this year. Guys are running around. They don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know what formation. They don't know what to get in. He said, you should have something, Chris, as a defensive guy. When that happens, if you don't call a timeout, isn't there like a fallback vanilla defense you just call and your guys go into it? You're not running around like chickens with their heads cut off?
No, I'm talking to yes, but I'm talking to the guy with the green dot, and I'm telling him two different defenses and 2 different defenses with 3 versions to get to when he sees a formation in the next 3 plays. That's what I'm looking at. Because I would have looked at enough film to know what the hell Indy's going to do, because Richardson's a moron, and he's only going to do what he can do down there. So
Chris, that alone is a telltale sign that there's a problem.
Top to bottom, it's not good. It's not good, top to bottom. So we'll see how they do after the bye. But Weekly Rewind was presented by Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law. Actually, you know what? Yeah, it is Corso Law Group, Joe. Sorry. CorsoLawGroup.com.
You'll get it.
I'll get it someday. When we come back, buckle up. Let's see what he's got. Catone's comments is next.
No one ever thinks they'll be in need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Whether it's a traffic ticket or more serious issue, go to CorsoLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys.
Time for Catone's comments.
So listen, this week I'm not going to mention the name because I know Joe will go crazy if I mention the name on the air. Okay. But this week I'm listening and a certain car company has a recall. They're recalling 634,000 cars. Why? Because the fuel injectors crack. Under certain conditions, the fuel injectors crack, leaking gasoline into the engine. And there's the possibility that it could ignite. So listen, leaking gasoline on a running engine is like just taking lighter fluid and pouring it on charcoal. I mean, it already lit charcoal. Just keep fanning it and letting it blow. I mean, are you kidding me? Really? So these car companies, what is a recall? Like, then I start thinking to myself, what creates a recall? Are you kidding me? I don't even know what creates a recall. What? When the steering wheel falls off? What? The steering wheel fell off. It's a recall. The brakes fell off. It's a recall. What? Like, I don't understand. Don't they have some kind of test they run before these cars leave the factory? You got all these recalls. I got one on my car the other day for something. I got to bring it in. Oh, it's some sensor. Oh, you're going to, it's a recall. Well, how the hell did you not know? Put it on a goddamn treadmill. Do a stress test like they do when you get chest pains. Do a stress test on the car before it leaves the factory. I don't know. Do something. I mean, are you kidding me? And then they say, we're going to fix the recall at no cost. No cost. Well, you want to charge me? What, you're going to charge me for your defect? What, no cost? You're doing me a favor, no cost. Are you kidding me? No, they should tell me you don't have to you don't have to pay your lease payment this month, or you don't have to pay your monthly payment on the car this month. Instead of telling me, it's going to be no cost to fix the recall. Are you kidding me? Really? It's insanity. It's insanity. What is the quality of what's being made, what it's become, especially when it comes to these cars. I mean, there's recalls constantly. It's amazing to me. And then they say for the inconvenience, they'll throw you in a gift certificate, something. Try to get the car in for the recall, by the way. Now, that's a whole nother issue. Now, you got 634,000 recalls. Now, you're going to try to get your car in. Well, now, we're going to order the part. We're going to order the new, the new fuel injector
Before it
put in
explodes.
before it explodes. Try to get the car in. Oh, by the way, you got to pray to God today's not the day that it explodes while you're taking your kids to school, while you're driving to work. It's like you're at the crap table at the casino. Throw the dice. Maybe you'll get lucky. That's what it's like. It's insane what has happened in as far as the services and the things that have gone on in some of these industries in this country. Things need to change, but these recalls are insanity. They're insanity. I don't know, Joe, what you and Chris think, but Chris, it's insane.
I got 5 recalls on my car right now. I feel like you're talking about my car.
Joe, why do I feel like he has this car?
Joe, it's nuts.
Why do I feel like you? By the way, I have my pen and glasses here. Can you tell me what kind of car that is? Because I'd like to go get one. I'm having that kind of week, so I'm interested in getting in a car that may explode. I'll take it. Give me the car right now.
I'll send you mine. My recalls, one of them says the recall no leak. It may explode on its own, doing nothing at all. Just sitting in the driveway is a possibility it'll explode. I'm like, great. That makes me real happy.
Yeah. Like so casual. Like
so casual.
Like the radio doesn't work.
The
car may explode. Bring it on in.
What is the legal ramifications for that? Are they covered?
If the car explodes and you're in it, they got a problem. Yeah, I would say so.
It might be.
No, but my question was going to be, are they covered because they sent you that there's a recall on that part? Like, if they covered themselves for liability because they've now sent you the fact that, oh, by the way, there's a recall on this part, is a safety issue that we're, and there could be some cars have exploded, and like, is that covering their liability until the car gets fixed?
Have you ever actually read the sales agreement on a car? Have you read it? Have you read all that crap?
No.
Has anybody out there ever read that crap? It's like when you buy a house. Does anybody even read that? You should see me. I'm a lawyer. And on those things, especially on the home one, boom, 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 boom. My closing took 10 minutes. Because I just signed it. I don't care. Listen, I'm sure that there's something in there in your sales agreement. And listen, you can't warranty your way out of killing somebody. Okay. You can't do that. But I'm sure that there's something in the agreement that says if something goes wrong and we have a recall, we can give you warning and notice, and then now it's on you if you keep,
Yeah.
What I'm curious about though, when you talk about this, I'm curious about, you asked about the legal ramifications. This is how my mind works. What happens when you've been calling and calling to try to get that car in to get the recall done?
Mm-hmm.
And then it explodes, or Joe, it explodes in your driveway while you're cutting the grass, and you end up like, whatever happens. You either roll the 7 or or other things. I said worse. Yeah, worse. Worse would be, an issue for the rest of your life. Anyway, what happens then? I mean, because they didn't accommodate you. I don't know. It's interesting. I will say this. You talked about throwing lighter fluid on a grill. I actually use gasoline to light the grill.
Attaboy.
No, I got a gas grill. I'm
talking about like one of those Weber's, one of the charcoal grills. No, nothing's better than on a charcoal grill. That's the best.
Oh, so you mean the old-fashioned charcoal grill?
The Weber with the bowl.
Gasoline?
Something. Yeah, I have one of those too, and I also have a gas grill, but I use gas.
You don't use lighter fluid?
No. No, I got it's a beautiful sound too. That's what it sounds like. Because because lighter fluid has like an oily base to it. Gas burns right off, and there's no aftermath. Maybe that's why I'm a little messed up, because I
listen. You talk about reading the fine print of the sales agreement. Listen, I'm not going to get into it today because we're going to go to another segment. But next week, I want to talk about the fine print of the bicycle that your son was renting at college that nobody chose to read, and they didn't show it to you. Nobody shared it with you. They hid the fact of this disagreement, and then you can tell us what happens for the cause after the fact. That's next week, Chris. That's next week.
Goddamn kids. You send them to college to get dumb. You know what I mean? That's what happens. That's what happens. Good stuff, Mark. Hey, if you got one of those cars out there, send it to me. I'll take it. Catone's comments was presented by the Pats Nation, Sundays, 8 a.m. Eastern. It's usually the first pregame show of the day for the Patriots on the same network, 790 The Score. Tomorrow we're going to have State of the Patriots at the break, so make sure you're tuning into that. But when we come back, we're going to talk B's and C's, but we're going to replace the B's with Providence College. No flipping.
Sundays are for football. And here in New England, that means it's the Pats Nation with Corso and Catone.
You have the worst wide receiver room in the National Football League.
This is why the Patriots need us in the draft room. Let's see what the Pats Nation thinks about that, Mark.
Starting June 30th, Sundays, 8 to 9 a.m. on 790 The Score.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. All right, let's get into it. B's and C's. Joe?
Hit it! The Boston Celtics are the world champions, and they have shown the world how great a ball club they really are.
Years it's going to be before we hear that Bruins highlight again.
Oh,
years.
Absolutely. Positively.
I don't want to talk about
the B's.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about the B's today. I don't want to talk about it.
I meant the C's. Sorry.
Yeah, the C's. Okay, so talking about the Celtics, Mark, and listen, this team. What I really want to talk about is this in-season tournament thing. I've been dying to get your thoughts on all this.
Yeah, I know you want to talk about this.
But the only thing I'll say on the Celtics, particularly, is, man, they come at you from all angles, don't they? Like they just keep Smolstrom the other night when they played the Heat, just shaking his head like, you plug one hole, another one pops open. You plug another hole, another one comes free. It's just they just non-stop at you. If these guys stay healthy, I don't. There's nobody that
they should repeat. If they're healthy, they'll repeat. I'll be shocked if they don't.
So the Celtics got eliminated from the in-season tournament. What had to happen was the path to get there, because they lost that first game.
They lost that game to Atlanta, right?
Right. And then it became they needed help. So now you got this bet. You got the best team in the NBA that needs the Magic to win and to beat the Knicks, and they needed whoever the hell the other game was, to one of the teams to win by more than like 10, something like that.
Yep. And if the Knicks won, they needed the Knicks to win by like
37
number. Yeah, some ridiculous number.
And by the way, the Knicks were up by 37 at one point in that game.
Yeah,
against the Magic. Well, naturally, the first one came out with it. One team beat them by, 20 points.
Milwaukee had to win by 10 or more. Milwaukee ended up winning by more than 10. Yeah.
And they crushed them. But the Knicks ended up beating the Magic, so they didn't get in. Now, the question I have for you is, well, what do you make of this whole thing? Is it interesting? Is to say like, well, it makes it for interesting basketball. What do you think?
I think at first last year, Chris, I thought it was a novel idea. It was, try to create a little buzz around what they're doing. And I think it did catch fire last year a little bit and create a little bit of buzz. But now it's year 2. And I don't know, Chris. It's a gimmick. It's, I know it counts on the team's records. So it's not like they're games that don't count. They count. They count towards your overall record. And listen, teams do want it does matter, it seems like, to the teams, Chris, because Friday night, Missoula calls a timeout.
Yeah, I love
with
that.
Like 3 or 4 seconds left to get a 3-pointer because he wanted the point differential for this.
Of course, Pritchard hit it.
Yeah, for this tournament to try to get in because he knew that was going to be one of the things. So I think that it does create that kind of interest. Like, it was obviously in the player's mind and in Missoula's mind. So if it didn't mean anything to them, he wouldn't have called timeout. I think they would love to go to Vegas for a weekend and party and hang out with the guys.
Tatum said he wanted to take his golf clubs.
Exactly. So, do I personally like it?
Oh, will you please come down on one side or another? God, Joe, he's like losing to him right now.
No, I'm saying I think the players like it. Me personally, I think it's a gimmick. I don't like it. I think it's a gimmick. I don't like it.
I will say it makes a December 2nd game interesting.
Okay. All right.
I mean, like, what? This is
they're professionals, for Christ's sakes. You shouldn't need anything to make something interesting.
He's like 100. You're like the T-Rex.
Years old.
Yeah. Because normally in December you're kind of like, okay, you get into December, January, dog days. You know what I mean? And so it does make it interesting. It does. It makes guys that would normally maybe sit play instead. And anytime you're able to talk about paths to this thing to happen, we get a path to that. It always is interesting. I don't mind it.
All right.
I don't mind it. I like the Celtics floor. You hated the Bulls. It was red. Like, what an ugly floor.
Yeah, the floors. Listen, if you like this gimmick, next week we're going to talk about the Major League Baseball's proposal of the golden bat. The golden bat.
Oh, well, let's wait till next week to talk about that.
The golden bat.
So let us know what you think of the in-season tournament and all that stuff going on. Anything you want to talk about Celtics and Heated Hotline. But, Mark, I want to talk about Providence College. And if we have another minute before we go, I wanted to get your take on planting the flag on the 50-yard line.
Oh, Michigan?
These college games. No, it happened in like 6 games. There were
it did, but Michigan was the first one to do it at the early game, the 12 o'clock game.
But talk about Providence College. And by the way, did you take something to calm you before you talk about this?
Oh, please. So last week, they Thanksgiving week, they had the 3 games in Paradise Island, the Bahamas. We lost all 3 games. Listen, it appears after last week, we don't have a pure shooter. Our wings are soft on defense. Our inside game, they're incapable of scoring. They can rebound, but they can't score. The team is flawed. I think you gamble when you go into the portal and bring all these guys in, and I think they thought that some of these guys' skill set was better than it was, but they were exposed. It was awful. It was a disgraceful, I thought, performance. They should be embarrassed on what they put out on the floor in the Bahamas, and that's going to hurt them in March when, if you come down to a bubble, that was the look you had against 3 teams who potentially one of them could be on the bubble. You're not going to get in. So you better go into the Big East and win 11, 12 games. Or you're not going to, based on what you showed in that tournament, you won't get in if you're on the bubble. Now, they come back this week from the Bahamas, and Tuesday night they play a team that's just outside the top 25, BYU. Bryce Hopkins comes back. Caveat, he didn't play last week. He's back, scored 16 points, looked good. They got good outside shooting. It was like they got shot with a bunch of adrenaline because Hopkins was back. He's supposed to be an All-American candidate, first team Big East. Maybe he's the straw that stirs the drink and he gets them going. But they needed something. He gave them that. Let's see what happens today. Saturday they're playing URI today. So let's see how they do against URI.
How about down low?
They can't score down there, Chris. Well, they got a couple of big guys, Chris, but they seem to be soft down there. They're big. They can rebound, but I don't necessarily know if they give you much offensive production and much rebounding. Now that Bryce Hopkins is back, he's going to have to grab rebounds for you.
Well, you heard it from the PC alumnus himself.
I'm still going to keep the faith and say they make the tournament.
Of course you got to keep the faith.
Boy, Chris, they looked awful last week. Did you watch those games?
Yeah, they're just kids.
They're kids, I know, but they didn't look good.
You were a lot more animated last week when you were.
I calmed down. I calmed down.
So we didn't get to the flags on the 50-yard line, but you know what? Next week on Corso Catone, we're going to talk about that. Joe, I want your take on that next week, and I want to hear from one of you in Heated Hotline about college teams planting the flag in the rival game on the 50-yard line caused bench clearing brawls. We want to know about it. Let us know what you think in Heated Hotline. But Corso and Catone was presented by the Pats Nation Sundays, 8 a.m. Eastern. Hey, we're going to give you a State of the Patriots address tomorrow morning, so make sure you tune in and come back next weekend to this show. We're going to talk Patriots future and so much more. We are Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. See you next Saturday.
Now find Corso and Catone on AM 790, The Score, iHeartRadio, iTunes, wherever you podcast. Or subscribe to the YouTube channel and catch the chaos every Saturday at noon.